What's a taboo you've always been curious about, but never dared to explore? Story 1. Realistically, I do want to try doing it outside at least once. Not even in a public location, just being totally naked out in nature. Free use too, but that's more of a fantasy than a taboo. Story 2. Maybe not taboo, but I really want to pick a woman up and her on my shoulders, like they do at concerts, except facing my mouth straight on, and eat her out while she's against the wall in the air. I hope I'm making sense. I've started strength training for when the day hopefully comes. Story 3. I have some sort of somnophilia aroused by someone asleep or unconscious, but I never explore it because, well, consent, even in long-term relationship full of trust, the consent is a bit complicated when someone is asleep. My boyfriend knows about my weird kink and he expressed consent as well as boundaries about it, but when I attempted, well, he's the kind of person to talk absolute nonsense in his sleep and do weird things, so my attempt at sexy time was met with Jimmy, you shouldn't be eating pizza and leg wiggle. Then he stole my blanket and hugged it really tight.
Idiot d'arrêt tout keep trying.
Story 4. Not sure if this counts, but bang a clown. As in full-on dressed like a clown with a painted face, noisy red nose and little bells on their collar. Could be large or thin, doesn't matter, just fully dressed like a clown. Story 5. I guess it's only a taboo because it's kind of violating someone else's crib, but it would be cool to hook up with a significant other while at a dinner party or something similar, like a gathering where we sneak away. Maybe that's more common than I think though. Story 6. I have a breeding pregnancy kink that I would love to enact to its consequences, and take responsibility for it, and build a loving family. I take the taboo so hard it turns wholesome. Story 7. A stranger without learning their name. Pure primal carnal, sleeping 8 hours a night for like a solid week. Not sure it's, but defo stuff I want to do in the bed. Story 8. I am bi, but I have lived my life as a straight guy because it is just easier. I have been really attracted to men a few times in my life, but basically didn't do anything about it, because it is so much easier to live life just being straight. I am sure there are tons of people like me. Story 9. More than once, an ex-GF said she wanted to watch me with another girl. Now, she didn't pester me about it, but she mentioned it on multiple occasions. I was way too chicken at the time to even try. But now, yeah, I sort of wonder. NB4. Open relationship. I know for a fact that my ex wasn't looking for an excuse to be with other guys. Her fixation was watching me with somebody else for some reason. Edit, gotta be honest. Wasn't expecting this to get so many upvotes. Anyway, one thing my ex did semi-frequently was ask about other girls. Are you attracted to her, or is she hot, and stuff like that. Story 10. My husband and I stayed in a hotel room with floor-to-ceiling windows. We were on the 17th floor, so I didn't think much of it as I was naked getting railed against the glass. A rooftop bar shined a spotlight directly at me. Story 11. Actually acting on MILF status. My 3 sons are in their 20s and I've had 4 of their male and 2 of their female friends hit on me. I never disrespect or embarrass my kids by being with a friend or similar age as them, but it is flattering to be seen as sexy, and at least with one, I let my mind ponder it. Story 12. I'm not a dominant. If anything, I'd be a very submissive verse, I suppose. But I do like the idea of a younger guy with mommy issues doing everything to please me and call me mommy, being rewarded with a handjob while he suckles at my breast, and punished with denial, edging and lack of air cause him sitting on his face. And then when he needs to work his baggage out, he is very rough with me. My ex-friend actually had this dynamic with their roommate. They were both in the Air Force, but they left due to health issues and they couldn't work, so their roommate paid for everything and she would let him roleplay his mommy kink in exchange. I didn't get it at first and thought it was messed up, but now I get it. Story 13. I've never been sent a. Surprisingly, the username never helped. My dream is to be sent a from any reasonably attractive woman I know in real life that I'm not intimate with. It drives me crazy the thought that I'd know what she looks like naked when I'd otherwise have no reason to. Story 14. I feel like half of these comments could be taken care of with a vacation to Portland, Oregon. The other half could be taken care of anywhere in Alabama. Story 15. I'd love to my wife with another dude. I'm not even the slightest bit concerned it would negatively impact our marriage, and she seemed okay with it when I brought it up. But we only ever had these conversations when it's about to happen, and as soon as all those desires drop out of my mind. This fantasy is really something I feel we would need to put effort into to set up. Non-horny me doesn't bother to put that effort in, and so it will continue to go unexplored. Story 16. Cheat on my wife. I've only ever been with her and so I've never experienced with anyone else, but I could never bring myself to violate her like that. I love her too much. The fantasy shall remain a fantasy. Story 17. Chemsex in a church while using a crucifix as a toy and reenacting communion with the wine replaced with my partner, and his mixed blood and communion wafers covered in each other's juice. Really spitting in the face of God to the fullest extent possible and getting a first-class ticket for the both of us on the express elevator straight to and back to here with time to tell. You feel me? I really enjoy the fantasy of pegging. In theory it seems awesome. In practice I have IBS and chances are it would turn gross. Always have one loaded in the chamber, lol. Story 18. I'd let a girl in my mouth before I had a vasectomy. I had a fantasy of being asked to impregnate a lesbian friend. Like it would be consensual but all business on her side. Story 19. More taboo in the lesbian community. But my wife and I want to have a threesome with a straight woman. If one would want to, many don't like to be used for experimenting, we wouldn't mind. Absolutely not referring to wanting to turn a straight woman, referring to the women who have never been with a woman and want to experiment and see if it's for them. I referred to them as straight because I view this as like a fork-in-the-road situation where they usually currently identify as straight. Many gay women do not like to deal with this experimentation, which is why I considered it more taboo for being someone who wouldn't mind. Story 20 would love to do more hardcore throat-fucking face-fucking. I don't generally like to mention it as it comes across as very one-sided and I understand why women wouldn't be into it. Story 21 so many, most of which I've just never had the opportunity, and now I'm married and the wife isn't on board, so unless something changes, they'll never happen. Being the backdoor man in a MMFDP threesome, having someone play with my peeing inside her after pulling out, coming on her, then licking it off MFF threesome and going back and forth between asses, and one that might actually happen, hooking up with a coworker on a work trip. Edit, I never said cheating, y'all. I may be married today, but who knows about the future. Edit, to some other guy explicitly says cheating and is upvoted. Y'all make no sense. Story 22, ID been hot for a cousin of mine for ages, then we found ourselves at a family gathering both drunk as in well, things got weird but nothing really happened. I was the one that chickened out, mixed emotions about it today, my own prostate, either my fingers are too short, or it don't exist. I won't buy a toy though cause that's gay. Story 23 listen, being cheated on sucks, I get it, but if a woman wants to cheat, she's not going to have trouble finding a dude to, and that dude may as well be me. Story 24 ID get pegged by a hot woman, but so far the opportunity has not presented itself, and is unlikely to in the immediate future. The non-immediate future, well who knows. Story 25 all the here is so mainstream, doing my part to share something actually proper freaky. I have a heart fetish, as in the actual organ. Don't ask how that happens, because I have no idea either. I found hearts interesting since I was a kid, and it was never a conscious choice to be this way. Anyway, people like me call ourselves cardiophiles. Part of it for me is the interpersonal intimacy power dynamic of it, and another part is that for whatever reason the actual mechanics of the heart beating are super arousing for me. Some people will use drugs or breath play, pressure, etc. to get arrhythmias and really get off to them. Sometimes those activities get a little, unsafe. Recently it's been getting popular within the community to stick acupuncture needles into the heart or surrounding tissues and even touch a battery to it to make the muscle go crazy, which is hot, but oh my god, do not do that. Even within these circles it's heavily discouraged. Also highly frowned upon to get off to real footage because those people don't know what the clip is being used for and thus can't consent. I've never done anything like that, because bad idea lol, but, you know, fantasy being fantasy. I just think it'd be crazy hot to be restrained and hooked up to a bunch of machines, ECG, ultrasound, stethoscope, all that good stuff, and have my heart tortured for hours on end in a clinical setting. Maybe crack open my ribcage with a sternal retractor and put pressure on different spots to see how it responds. Clamp the big vessels to varying degrees and see what it does. Injections of different drugs to make it race, skip, fibrillate, etc. Comment on what it's doing. It's taking so much strain, barely pumping any blood, trying so hard. I would want to be conscious for it, obviously, so nothing wild enough for me to pass out, but being on the brink and then coming back would be hot. In this scenario, I also wouldn't feel pain but would feel all the sensations of what my heart is doing, if that makes sense. And then afterwards I'd walk out no worse for wear, and maybe they'd give me a lollipop or something. I have no clue what wires in my brain got crossed for me to find an internal organ arousing, but here we are. I hope you're happy, OP. Story 26 free use enforced. I also find the thought of cream pies super hot but was always too scared to get pregnant. I was married for a time and it's amazing I ever got pregnant because we used condoms 99% of time for the duration of our marriage. Story 27 squirting. I was always judgmental about it because the mechanics of it didn't line up with my understanding of anatomy, and it just seemed like a fancy way of saying you pee, ed yourself to take the shame out of it. Then I got a new type of toy external, I may add youve never used before, with some arousal gel, allowed myself to get comfortable with it, and it freaking happened. My body has never done anything against my will like that, and I was shocked. Half because I didn't think it was a real thing, and half because I didn't feel like I had to pee at all, and I always heard that was the sign it was going to happen. And now I need to explore this from my own non-believer standpoint. Story 28 my two current ones are having in a club bathroom or something similar, and going down on someone while they have to talk to someone else. The second one came from this one time I hooked up with a poly dude when his GF was in the next room. My fantasy is getting down to business and then they have to answer a question from a roommate or something who has no idea what's happening. I don't love the idea of essentially involving someone who didn't consent, but the point would be that they would never know what was going on. But yeah, that's why I haven't actively tried to fulfill this one lol. Story 29 one thing that's always kinda intrigued me but also low-key freaked me out is voyeurism. Not the creepy boundary-crossing kind, but more the idea of watching or being watched with consent in a private, safe space. Story 30 since a few years back, I wanted and still want to try the whole polyamory thing publicly. It's very taboo, but interestingly enough, having affairs is more socially accepted. Story 31 threesome with a woman and a trans woman. I've been a long believer and practitioner of the MMF threesome being greater than the MFF. Why? I can barely please one woman without premature jacing, so what the am I gonna do when I have to please a second woman? And secondly, I'm probably on the scale closer to bi than straight, kissed plenty of dudes on nights out, and had more devil's threesomes than dream threesome, like 7 to 2, So I've seen my fair share of dicks that ain't mine in the bedroom. That's a point for another post. But yeah, I feel that threesome has all the things I would want. 2 dicks so I can take a break, 2 mouths for sets of. And if I'm feeling it, I'd probably go hammer time on that, since no woman has seen mine and been like, yeah, I'll take that in the butt. Story 32, the act known as PBJ, where you slather your dong with Jif, head to a beach known to be populated by jellyfish, and well, hold a jellyfish on it until you are stung. Story 33, being hit during it to the point where I have lots of bruises. Nobody has been willing, and I don't want anyone to do anything they are uncomfortable with. Story 34, I'm a virgin, and my hymen as described by my gyno is apparently 100 intact and thick. I do own a, when I try to use it while aroused, it just hurts when it makes contact with a hymen. So I guess I want to break it but don't know how, because eventually I want to have and enact a lot of various taboo scenarios. Story 35, always wanted to have a 3-way. Heard and going on last night, and was too much of a chicken to bring myself to go knock on their door and see if they had room for more. Story 36, CNC, though I'm worried I wouldn't be able to get into, or that I'd get too into it. My sister, I don't have a sister, calling out the wrong girl's name. Story 37, bondage, and I'm not talking those flimsy Velcro straps that go under your bed and can be broken out of in 2 seconds. I want to literally be strung up and blindfolded, but only with someone trustworthy. Story 38, I think I may have actually experienced a taboo. When I was 15, I was in a relationship with my 30-year-old married neighbor. She was hot. It lasted about 5 years. Story 39, stag vixen couple invites other men into the bedroom, but the husband stag is in charge and involved. The men who are invited and only have with the woman vixen, but her husband is in the bed, directing what's done, keeping her safe and making sure she's getting pleasure the right way. Sometimes he partakes in her also. It heavily involves body worship, raise kink. No humiliation of either partner is involved. I just don't think I could convince the types of men I date to get into something like that. Oh. Story 40, honestly, I'd probably be down to or DP a woman. I've been single for a while, so I'm not sure if it's mild desperation, but it looks fun. I've never done it before though. I also wouldn't want to do it with a couple or any future girlfriend, but more like all of the parties involved are strangers and it never happened lol. Obviously a 2-girl threesome as well. I'm a guy obviously, but that's less taboo than a or DP. Story 41, wife is my only partner that I've had full with. She tried it with her ex and hated it. I fantasize a lot about being on top of someone and them slitting my throat. I like blood. Story 42, work. I know it's not ever what people expect. It's often really tough on people, but I've always received stellar feedback from the women and NBPPL I've slept with, and I really get off on giving pleasure. It would never work practically as the health, safety, public image concerns are too great. Still, though I don't tell people about it, IRL is easily the thing I'm best at, getting paid to do it as a literal side hustle while also getting to enjoy getting people off. I've always imagined it would be a rush. Hiring a professional worker seems too risky from many angles, but it also has always been something I'm curious if I'd enjoy or not. Story 43, 2 truths and a lie at this point. I'd be okay if my wife wanted to pee on me. Also, some femboys look feminine enough to JJUSD blur the line of gay enough. And lastly, I wouldn't mind visiting parties with my partner. Trouble is it would need to be with other people I feel I could trust. I'd be very insecure about things too. Also, I don't think that's something my partner would ever agree to. But hey, it's fine to keep as a fantasy. Nothing wrong with it. Let's just say sand is sandier than you'd imagine. Story 44, please don't tell Father Herrera. But one time I slept with my wife missionary style and I wasn't trying to impregnate her. I did keep my socks on though. I'm not a pervert. Story 45, cheating is a huge kink of mine. Both cheating and being cheated on, but it lives exclusively in fantasy territory. Emotionally, I could never do that to my wife nor see her do that to me. Story 46, not a lot is super taboo for me anymore, but I constantly want my boyfriend his 2 hot friends to use me. I'm a human puppy, I so want them to dehumanize metal down to me or like I'm a dog and then pass me around. Story 47, my by husband and my by self, reading through this thread like we have a lot of fun. I guess at this point I'd like my husband to be the lucky Pierre in a lucky Pierre. He'll take either of the other roles, or honestly I'd be happy watching from the sidelines drinking a glass of wine and smoking a joint. Story 48, if that's considered taboo, not sure it's a taboo, but having a girlfriend to hug and lean against while watching a feel-good movie, with a mug of hot chocolate in hand sounds nice, loosely wrapped by a blanket like a burrito. Story 49, threesome sounds hot, looks hot, could be hot, but let's be honest, I don't want anyone else with my partner other than me and they feel the same, so it can stay a fantasy where I single with no ties. Sure, maybe I'd give it a go. Story 50, my ex had to take epilepsy drugs at night and would get almost drunk because of a unique set of side effects, and this would include loss of memory and delusions. However, we had an agreement that as long as I made sure to put blankets back on and tuck her back in, I can smash. So basically because of this I know what it's like having with someone drugged out of there or passed out. It's honestly not great, but it was really sweet how she'd sometimes wake up and say hi, you're inside me, then giggle. Yeah, I miss her, but her shopping addiction drove me into debt. Story 51, this weekend I was out with my best friend. We were having a tough time deciding what bar to go to and we passed the strip club on our way downtown. I was like, let's go to the step club, and she's like, I'm down, but I was joking and kind of scared of the idea. Story 52, on Saturday a friend of mine wanted to sleep in my bed after clubbing. She has a boyfriend. I told her I go to sleep now after she said she can sleep better being touched. Story 53 Pegging. I like getting rimmed and enjoy a finger or two. I've explored trying to get a smallish in my butt, but I get bored and a little sore by the time I get the head in. I don't think I have the patience for full-on butt and my partner isn't that interested. Story 54 Cross-dressing. I used to put on girls' clothes when I was younger when no one was around, but once I realized how much trouble I'd be in if I was caught I stopped and buried my desire to be a woman. I recently sobered up long enough to be alone with my thoughts and realized that maybe it wasn't a normal phase that everyone goes through and maybe I have some unexamined facets to myself because I've been too much of a coward to really look inward. Change is coming and I don't know how to deal with it. Story 55 Party. But everyone is young, hot, and respectful, too scared there will be drug-fueled people, old, ugly people, and aggressive people. There's not a whole lot I'm into that I haven't done, except knife play. Story 56 One night stand raw. Woman leaves no idea whether it resulted in anything not exploring this ever we raise our kids too, consent and consent. A friend told me about CNC some time ago, but I've got not a person to ever explore this with. 3. Not a taboo but I've wanted to smash an older woman for as long as I've had thoughts, has never occurred. Story 57 ID love to an older woman like a hot grandma in her 60s. I'm 25 and I've messed around with older women in their late 30s and 40s but never past that. ID also love to a pregnant woman not even have to be pregnant for me but just pregnant and down to. Story 58 ID like to be naked and for a group of clothed women with Christina Hendricks. I really want to all three of my ex's sisters and her mom as well. They range in attractiveness, and I was never into them while we were still together, but it's like the only thing I've been able to think about for the past 2 years. And there's obviously an element of revenge to it, at least subconsciously, but the taboo of it is what makes it so desirable. Story 59 So my fantasy is I like to wearing a girl's clothes and I need a girl me like wearing a and my and also she-male my in short I need a girl who can me. Story 60 Once had a lady back in Dallas ask me in an ever so seductive way if I'd mind if we could incorporate raceplay into our sexy time. For the record, this was an absolute first for me on raceplay requests. We'd only been dating for a few months at this point. I responded with a little bit of a surprising look. I then asked her to explain her request. She then goes on to literally ask me if I could essentially be Hitler or Goebbels and treat her like the filthy Jew that she is. I was stunned. At first, I thought she was trying to get a rise out of me but then I realized that she was serious. My face got flushed as I was caught off guard. I refused to do so, explaining that it's well unethical and immoral. Also, I wasn't 100% sure that she wasn't videotaping this back in 2007, so I didn't want to be on video ramrodding this crazy while simultaneously yelling you dirty Jew figging. Look it up. Story 61 Busty cute smiley goth trans girl topping me. Black lipstick with her pearly white teeth poking out as she smiles and pants. Clearly enjoying her time. Lots of pauses for kisses and giggles. Or a cis woman pegging me in the same fashion. Story 62 Probably, with being able to stay actually deep for more than just a pump or two, a little rough too, but just a little I have a longer peen, and being able to fully bury it then thrust for at least a little bit would be amazing. Story 63 This isn't really curiosity more like culinary curiosity but I really want to see what her mommy milk tastes like. Then recently I heard many that sometimes it comes out pink, not because strawberry mommy milk but because blood can mix in with it, so now I'm slightly less curious, but hey, I've already sated my curiosity of period. Thought Iron Man was nearby for that one. Story 64 I want someone to watch me and my husband, tell us what to do, they can masturbate, video, take pictures but cannot touch us, if they don't until we finish they can on me.